Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment. Join us every week as we bring you Metro News Hotline's most popular features, engaging interviews, and thrilling games. Kick back, relax, and relive the highlights of our most talked about segments. Hotline Weekend, your ultimate dose of fun and unforgettable moments.
You know what? It's probably a good time to bring Chef Paul Smith into this conversation. Hey, Paul, how you doing today?
I am great, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm good. And you know what? I'm really interested in your take on this about, you only get one chance to make a first impression. You've been involved in many, many restaurants. I mean, and what for you what do you think is a deal breaker for customers? What do you try to avoid as an owner?
What I try to avoid as an owner is first impression, negative first impression. A deal breaker for me as an owner is ribbon cuttings, grand openings, floodgates opening, and you're not ready.
Yeah.
That's why I firmly believe, and when I'm consulting in a new restaurant or anything, I say, hey, let's just open the doors and let's do 2 or 3 days of soft opening, control it, friends and family only, take reservations, weed out. You're always going to have, little things that are, little hiccups in your order system, little hiccups in your technology, little hiccups in your kitchen. So 2 or 3 days of soft opening, close for 1 or 2 days. Normally I would do it on soft opening on a Friday or Thursday, Friday or Friday, Saturday, close on Sunday, Monday, just open the doors on Tuesday.
So
that way you can really reset and work out all the kinks.
So this survey that we've been talking about today in regards to our question of the day says that the average person who responded to this survey, and it was 2,000 American adults, haven't been in a new restaurant in 5 months. What's your reaction to that?
I think, I don't see a ton of new restaurants opening. I see more restaurants closing than opening. But I also think that people get in, just like in anything, I think people get in ruts. I think people get in routines. I think it's, hey, let's go to Fernbank, like the gentleman said, because, if that was open, or let's go to, whatever it may be. Let's go to Sam's Uptown for brunch every Sunday. And that's awesome. I think definitely trying new places. I think, giving something 2 chances as well. There's so many, and I won't get on my high horse about the restaurant review pages, but I think there's so many times where, hey, mistakes happen. The service might be a little slow that day. The server might be off their game. The kitchen might be off their game. Give them 2, maybe 3 chances before you write it off.
You know what?
And also, shop local.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. I'm glad you added that. Now, here's another topic that's restaurant related that is right in your wheelhouse. I sent you this note today about Texas Roadhouse. They're a huge chain. Third quarter revenues year to year for Texas Roadhouse are up almost 13%. But the thing that really got my attention was that weekly sales at Texas Roadhouse of takeout, Texas Roadhouse takeout, is up over 12%. And, that's kind of right in your lane, because during the pandemic, you stayed in business. You did a ton of takeout. What are the pits? What are the problems and some of the advantages of takeout from a restaurant owner perspective?
Takeout is turning inventory and keeping people employed. That's positives. Negatives are DoorDash, Grubhub taking 35%. The experience of a restaurant is not there. Even though you can take a bottle of wine home, the food is presented as well as you can in a to-go container. It's just not the dining experience. It's not the food that you get when you're there. I mean, case in point, we don't put French fries, nachos, those kinds of things on our takeout menus at the pitch. because you're setting yourself up for failure. We've all had soggy fries every time. You put something fried in a closed container and it steams and it loses all its crisp. Anything that's fried, the nachos get stale or get super soggy by the time you get home. So we had to stay open because we opened during COVID. So we didn't really have a choice. We were already at that point of no return. But, I think as a takeout diner, and I get takeout sometimes on Sundays if I'm home, and I'll get pizza.
Sure.
I'll get something like that I know that travels. Even chicken wings don't travel well. Nothing travels as well. Maybe I think Chinese food and Mexican don't travel terribly, but you're just missing that experience. You're missing the service. You're missing treating yourself to a night out. I think, slow service, it depends. If you are intentionally being slow because you want people to have a good dining experience, and that's a good thing. But you're right, slow and non-attentive service is another thing.
Yeah, I know that Outback does pretty well with their takeout, and I wasn't even aware that Texas Roadhouse even did takeout. Now they don't do delivery, but they just do simply takeout. I'm just a little in the middle of the road when it comes to like trying to get a steak dinner as a takeout.
Yeah. No, I think you run the risk of your steak cooking a little bit.
Right.
I mean, we do a lot of takeout at the pitch. We're in a weird position in Dunbar because your DoorDash is only kind of a 7-mile radius, and we're not really close. We're 7 miles from Charleston. We're 8 or 10 miles from the Taze Valley area. But even at 1010, we try our best to plate things in the to-go container. And we have nicer to-go containers, but it isn't the 1010 experience. It is great food, as great as we could get it, but if you have a medium rare steak, you put it in a closed environment with a little bit of sauce over it and other things that are hot. By the time you get that steak home, it might have, the top of that steak, if it's sliced, it might be a little bit gray. It may not look medium rare when you get it home.
Yeah, Coop, weigh in on this. Coop, have you ever had a steak dinner? Did you ever do a takeout steak dinner?
I've done it once. I did it once, and it honestly wasn't terrible. I was a little surprised. The thing that you really lose is like, even if the cook maintains okay, there's just something about the surface area that isn't right. Like, you just can't regain that texture after it's been steamed for 8, 20, 15 minutes, whatever time it takes for it to get to your house. There's just something about keeping it covered for that amount of time that you can't get that texture back.
You're exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, I love Lowry's restaurant. I will get, their escargot is one of my favorite things. I think something like that does travel pretty well. They put it over bread. Of course, the bread soaks in a little bit of that garlic butter and it's already sopped, so that's awesome. But you get a filet Oscar with mashed potatoes and you take it home. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Coop. That Maillard reaction, that crusty texture that really is where kind of that crunch comes in is lost because, again, it's that steam factor.
All right, let me ask you this. Say, for example, you go to 1010 for takeout or Texas Roadhouse, whatever, and you bring that steak home and you eat like 2/3 of it. How long can you keep cooked meat in your refrigerator before it goes bad?
Oh, for a couple of days. I think a couple of days is fine. I always, when we had a party this weekend, we brought back a couple of 1010 cuts. We'll serve them for staff meal. That was on Saturday. We're serving them actually as we speak right now. I have a problem with meat that is reheated. I think it kind of has that, I always say wet dog. It has that kind of wet dog smell to it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why I equate both of those things together, but it's just not super, it just doesn't taste 100% great. But I mean, if, I'm also not going to throw away a $55, 8-ounce Lowry steak, I'm going to eat that thing the next day if I've got half of it left.
Of course you are. I might
chop it up and throw it into an omelet, or maybe something else. But I'm definitely going to eat it.
You know what, man? We're out of time. I had so much more to talk to you about. It's not going to be much longer, Paul. Maybe we start next week. Start talking about Thanksgiving meals.
Ooh, heck yeah!
You know what? Because today is October 30th. Hey, where are you? Are you at 10:10 today?
I'm at 10:10, buddy. Yep, every Monday. Just wait, listening to the phones ring.
Attaboy. Hey, well, thanks for coming on today. We'll talk more about food and the restaurant business next.
This is Hotline Weekend.
Kristyn Burtt, Hollywood Dirt. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Still sad over the news about Matthew Perry. What a great loss.
Yeah, I was talking to Coop about this right when the show started. In your opinion, was Chandler Bing the best character on Friends?
Ooh. I probably related to a little bit of Monica.
Okay.
A little bit of that type anus. But to me, Phoebe was the funniest because she was just so wacky.
That's so true. One of the things about Matthew Perry was he was in the spotlight for such a big portion of his life. And obviously that led to some decisions he probably wished that he could have made in a different way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people forget he was a child and teen star. He worked in Hollywood. He was on Growing Pains a long time ago, if anyone remembers that. He had a really well-known storyline on that show. But it was a jet ski accident that led him to prescription drugs to manage the pain that really kind of led him down a path that, my goodness, I'm sure he wished didn't happen. With 14 times 15 times in rehab, something like that, spending $9 million was the total. In his book, he said $7 million. And he said later on, he goes, I actually tallied it up and it's $9 million to get sober. But he also, at the same time, made it his mission to help others because he knew how hard a struggle this disease was. And TMZ is just reporting now that he was looking at opening something similar to like a Betty Ford type of center where he thought he could really make an impact on people's lives.
So so Matthew Perry drowned over the weekend. He was only 56 years old. And this was what's really kind of odd about this situation. The most recent photo that we have of him was actually in his jacuzzi, right? Like from a couple of days ago?
Yeah, about 6 days ago on his Instagram account, you can see that obviously it was kind of a place of relaxation for him, a place of peace in his backyard. And the coroner has done the autopsy and it's been inconclusive. So I know we've heard reports about cardiac arrest as well as drowning, but they really need to see the toxicology report before they're going to make a decisive decision on that. And
also that his personal assistant had been around but had left him just what are we talking about? Less than an hour prior to his drowning to pick him up a new phone.
Yeah, so he sent his personal assistant out to pick up a new phone and run a couple of other errands. He had been playing pickleball that morning as well, so he'd been exerting himself, but had been feeling a little bit tired. So in that time frame, which we've heard anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, his assistant was gone. When the assistant came back, that is when he found Matt Perry in the hot tub.
You think about all those years where there were rumors of whether there would ever be a Friends reunion and how much money would be involved if they ever did it. They finally did it. They did finally get a Friends reunion. And now in light of this tragedy, for fans of the show, I'm glad they did it.
I'm so glad. And that particular reunion special that was on HBO and Max had been postponed many times because of the pandemic. They just kept on getting pushed back and pushed back. I had a friend who actually worked on that production. When they finally got it together, I think it was a very emotional time for all of them. It's kind of hard to look back in some ways because they all went through so much. But now in hindsight, they're going to be so glad that it happened.
All right, other stuff that's going on. You've got some other great topics too today. And one that Coop and I were talking about briefly in the break before you jumped on with us is this idea of bringing back movie intermissions. The idea of bringing back movie intermissions and the length of Martin Scorsese's new movie has really sparked this debate.
I am all for intermissions. I got to be honest. So Martin Scorsese film right now, Killers of the Flower Moon, is running 3 hours and 26 minutes. And when you are a theater owner and operator, you agree to show it as the director intended, which means showing it through its 3 hours and 26 minutes without an intermission. But some theaters have pushed back and said it's just too long and it's hurting the box office. So they've been inserting their own intermission and getting in trouble, of course, with the studio, but it's really sparked that debate. And listen, this is a big win. If you can find a natural intermission in your film, if you're going to do that 3.5 hour, 4 hour film, this is an opportunity for the theater to sell concessions, of course, and make more money. It's for people to feel comfortable, but it's also for people that may have some sort of medical condition. This is actually, they're calling it ableism, of saying, you know what, you can't expect people to sit through that when they may have medical situations where they do have to go to the bathroom in that 3 to 4 hour time period. It's not fair.
By the way, I love this topic. You can see these movies sometimes on Turner Classic, the really, really long ones like Gone with the Wind and 10 Commandments, where they've left the intermission screen and the intermission music up, and it really kind of throws you back.
Oh, absolutely. I saw Dr. Zhivago on the big screen.
There you go.
There was an intermission, and I'm a big fan of it. I would love to be able to take that break, maybe get a snack, stretch my legs a bit, and come on in. And Martin Scorsese's argument is, you can sit on your couch for 5 hours and binge a TV show. You can do the same for my movie. And I argue with him. I've gone to the bathroom. I've gotten a snack. I've put it on pause. I've maybe picked up my phone in that 5 hour time period. Give us the intermission. Well,
when you sent me this topic, one of the things I saw today that I thought was kind of ingenious, for example, say you went to like a theater chain and you had their app and you had bought your ticket for this particular movie that had the intermission, you would know on your app at what point the intermission would be coming. So you could sort of like plan out your race for snacks, your trip to the bathroom, that kind of thing. I think people would like that.
Yeah, call the babysitter, make sure the kids are okay if you're on a date night. And this is also an opportunity for movies and for theaters to sell merchandise as well. Think about that. This is done extremely well with Taylor Swift. Think outside the box, people. This is a way to make even more money. You know what? I'm sure movie nerds are way ahead of me on this, but I'd like to know, what was the last movie that had a scheduled intermission? Ooh.
Apocalypse Now didn't have one. I don't think it did, but it was an extremely long movie. I don't know. I may research that. We may do that as a question of the day tomorrow. All right. A couple of things. Saw Meg Ryan with David Duchovny on the late night shows last week. I think Duchovny's doing one of those shows tonight. They're out there pushing her return for this rom-com that she's done. What are you hearing about this?
Yeah, this is kind of exciting. It's been a while since we've seen her on the big screen. Not only is she starring in it, but she's also directing in it. It's called What Happens Later. It's two ex-lovers. They get snowed in together at an airport overnight. And of course, you know, does that spark still there is, of course, what the whole storyline is about. And they do have an interim agreement. So if anyone's wondering, like, how can they be promoting it during a SAG strike? It's one of those interim agreements. They're allowed to talk about it. But Meg Ryan's been answering a lot of questions like, where have you been?
Yeah.
And she just said, you know what? I had a huge rise to the top. I did it. I, then adopted a daughter after my divorce, and I decided to get out of LA, move to New York, have a normal life, and just do something for myself. And that's exactly what she did. And she said, when I was ready, my daughter's in college now. This is all about me and doing films that I want. And this is kind of a nod to Nora Ephron, where she, obviously worked under quite a bit over the years. And she just said, I love doing rom-coms. And this is my sort of love letter to Nora and to all of my rom-com fans.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how well this does at the box office. It has been a while since we've seen Meg Ryan. All right, finally, you've got a little note about reality TV maybe having a reckoning. What is that about?
So interesting about what's been going on. In the wake of, our hot labor summer of everyone going on strike, there's been kind of a movement amongst the Bravo TV celebrities saying, hey, we also need a union. We'd love to be under SAG-AFTRA or form our own union. But a lot of people are calling Bravo TV to the table because it's kind of like making a deal with the devil. You know that you're going to make a lot of money, but at the same time, there are a lot of personal costs. And Vanity Fair has done kind of an expose on this, particularly focusing in on the Bravo Housewives franchise. But I think it really gives people an idea of, there's some good bonuses there, but there's a lot of sacrifices to be made in your personal life when you decide to throw it all out there.
What do you think, Coop?
Well, I was wondering when something like this was going to start coming up, because the only thing that I know about the reality industry was being part of one. When the Big Feet people came to the Sasquatching people came here, and we threw our lot into helping them create their fabricated Sasquatch story. But that was a reality show, and the one thing that struck me about that, and I was wondering about this from Kristyn's perspective, because I assumed that this was going to become an issue soon enough. But all of the people that work on that are non-union. The guys in the camera that were in the studio with me, all of those guys, all they could do was complain about their per diem, that they weren't getting anything, that their shoddy work schedule. Like, I was a nobody, but they were in here like treating me like their therapist. Like, I was just hearing about all of the problems that they had, and they were like, this is what it is, being part of a union, and networks only want to pay for these shows. Now, this was about 10 years ago or something, maybe not quite that long, but pretty close to that long ago. So I wondered when there was going to be a reckoning with reality TV, because that's been kind of it seems like that's been a way for networks. Another way for networks to cut costs is because they don't have that force behind them that's looking for wage equity and things.
Absolutely. So the crews on a lot of these Bravo TV reality shows, and I'll say it's different for like a network reality show, like a Dance with the Stars is all union from cast and crew.
Yeah.
But if you look at Bravo TV, the cast and the crew are all non-union, and they're working sometimes long hours, quick turnarounds. If you look at The Miracle, if you followed any of the Scandival with the Vanderpump Rules thing that happened, the big cheating scandal over the spring, which led them to an Emmy nomination, by the way. But those editors had to go and turn around a complete storyline that changed the whole, through line for everyone for the entire season. So there's a lot of expectations, but they are not seeing the money that they deserve for something like that.
All right, got to leave it there. Kristyn, thanks for coming on the show. A lot of great topics today. We'll talk more about entertainment next Monday at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. Have a good week.
You too. Thank you.
Kristyn Burtt, Hollywood Dirt.
This is Hotline Weekend. Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment.
It's time to talk about something that has never, ever happened to me before. So Linda's out of town for a few days. And one day I wake up in South Charleston, and I look out onto the front porch, and there's this gigantic bag of toilet paper.
Okay.
Charmin toilet paper, 32 rolls. 32 rolls. It's a biggin. So, sometimes when she's out of town, we have a subscription to Sam's, so she'll order something and it'll get delivered. And that's kind of the way Sam's operates. When stuff gets delivered by Sam's, it doesn't come in like a Sam's van, or like the person who delivers it is wearing like a little Sam's uniform. It's like an unmarked car pulls up, the trunk opens up, somebody grabs something, throws it onto the porch, and then they take off. So I find this gigantic bag of toilet paper, and I have no idea where it's coming from. And I think maybe it's Sam's, but there's nothing on the package. There's nothing on the package to indicate whether it was ours or not. So I'm talking to her on the phone in St. Pete, like we always do. And I'm thinking, she ordered it like she ordered coffee or something. She had no idea, Coop. She didn't order the toilet paper.
Oh, okay. It's a mystery.
And, okay, but there's a couple of layers to this, okay? So we're on the phone, and she's in Florida, and I say to her, hey, it's a 32-pack of Charmin. And she goes, well, that's not us. That's too expensive for you. Well, how's that supposed to make a man feel? I mean, what level? How do I get to like the top level of toilet paper? Okay,
what is the top level anyway?
I don't know, but this is a level that apparently I don't qualify for. So that was kind of a surprise. So I put the toilet paper away, put it down in the laundry room until she got back to town on Saturday. So I show her the roll of toilet paper, and I think, I'm from Harrison County, so possession is like 9/10 of the law. I'm going to hold this thing, and unless somebody comes for it, eventually I'm going to crack this baby open, the expensive Charlotte toilet paper that I'm apparently not good enough to use, and I'm going to use it. So unbeknownst to me, the next day, she gets on the phone. She finds some, Coop, you know how she is.
Yeah.
She could be a private detective, okay? Somehow she found the barcode on this thing and did identify that it did indeed come from Sam's. So, she shot the barcode with her phone and she was able to get the number to try to find out who this belonged to. So she calls the number. It's a call center in India.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Well, what we were really looking for was the address that this package of toilet paper belonged to so we could return it. I don't want to give you my street address. I don't need to do that. But let me just say it's a common street address, and there's a lot of streets in our part of town that have this same number. So the person that she talked to in India, that's not how Sam's works, okay? The way they work is that they will come out. They will send somebody out to pick up the item, and they will take the item to where it's supposed to go. Well, if they don't come out in 3 days, if they don't come out in 72 hours, you get to keep the item. And Coop, we've hit the 72-hour barrier today.
Okay.
So maybe I'm not good enough for the Charlotte toilet paper. Maybe I've done something in my adult life, maybe as a married man, that I didn't qualify for the expensive toilet paper. But doggone it, tonight when I leave the office, that bad boy is mine.
You gonna go crack it open?
I don't know if I'm going to crack it open. I think I'm going to savor it. Like I'm going to have a toilet paper cellar or something like that. Or I'm going to hold this bad boy until I absolutely positively need it.
Now, I have some homework for you if you're going to do this. Because one bit of toilet paper trivia that I've ran across recently is that Charmin has redesigned their tear.
Oh, well, see, I wouldn't know that. I'm just a lowly person from Harrison County.
So what you're looking for when you crack that bad boy open is you're looking for a wavy pattern instead of the straight pattern.
Oh.
Apparently, over the decades of having a comment line, the people at Charmin, the most complained about thing that they would get was the non-straight tears. I don't know who is calling and complaining about I've never cared. But anyway, my daughter, however, is really into the straight tear on the toilet paper.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is. So if it doesn't line up, when she was first learning to use the bathroom, if she didn't tear straight, she'd just throw the toilet paper away. I'd be like, kid, that's like throwing away money. You just rip and wipe, baby. You don't got to worry about it, all right? Just rip and wipe. But so apparently now, Charmin listened to its customers, and so they've developed this wavy pattern that because the force that you put on the toilet paper when you go to tear is never direct. It's always from one side or the other.
Right.
So this wavy pattern compensates for that. And so you're always going to straight tear now when you're tearing this toilet paper. So I'm interested in they just rolled this out. So if this is a new enough Sam's roll of Charmin, then maybe you'll be able to break that bad boy open and tell me what that wavy tear is like.
I think it is. I think it is a wavy pattern.
Interesting.
You know what? This is why I have the best job in the world. I have been waiting to tell this story for a week, okay? But I wanted to wait until the clock ran out so I could keep this bag of toilet paper.
Yeah, we had another resolution. Otherwise, we'd have to do a follow-up. And, maybe there's limited use in a second toilet paper story, although I would maybe argue that there's never too many.
There's, and this is one of those things, this is the kind of story for the listeners that we have. There are some that have said, turn that idiot off, okay? But for others, guys in our lane, they have reached down and turned the knob up for this story.
Yeah, and there's probably some folks out there in the hashtag 180 Club that have a drinking game based off of this somehow. All we need now is like a weather mention, and somebody's going to have to take a drink.
I suppose that's true. And you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, this is the longest story about toilet paper that has ever been on this show. And you know what? You'd be right.
Probably.
You'd be right.
Yeah, I don't have the
archives. It's not the only one.
Sorted. No.
It's not the only one, but it's probably the longest one.
This is Hotline Weekend.
Abrar-Al Heeti is with us to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of tech. Abrar, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I have to ask you, first of all, about the Apple event in prime time.
Yes.
Not sure how I felt about why that needed to really be in prime time.
Yeah, it was really weird, especially us being on the West Coast, 5 p.m. felt late, but I can only imagine on the East Coast, it was even more obnoxious. And it was only a 30-minute event. So it was definitely a lot of energy invested into something that was short and at a very inconvenient time on a Monday night.
I guess I can afford to be snarky about this, that every once in a while it's important to update your Apple TV. But I tell you what, whenever they have one of these Apple events, no matter what generation Apple TV you have, it comes in loud and clear.
They want to make sure you can watch it on their devices for sure. Yeah.
It was almost, the thing was, it was almost like it was supposed to be a half an hour TV show. And if you're going to do that, you know what they really ought to do? And not that Tim Cook needs my suggestions, but what they really ought to do is, if you can prove that you watched the event, you ought to get like an extra year of Apple TV, or they ought to give you something.
Yeah, I think that's a very reasonable thing to ask for. I think it'd be a great way to entice people to do so.
Yeah. I mean, if you knew that you were going to get like 6 months of Apple TV and suddenly you saw like a new MacBook Pro that you wanted to buy, isn't that worth that to that company?
Absolutely. I think it would pay off immediately because you're watching this. Like when I was watching this stream and they're announcing, for example, the MacBook Pro in space black, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, wow, wouldn't that be so nice to have? I don't need a MacBook Pro in space black. Like I have a functional laptop, but I'm sitting there watching it. And of course, it's going to work on me. So I think you're right. I think that would be a genius idea.
You know, isn't it interesting how Apple also, when they just roll something out in a new color, they make it seem like it's the best thing ever.
Even when it's like a yellow iPhone and you're like, I don't think I ever asked for this. But I see all these ads everywhere. And now I'm thinking about how apparently cool it is to have a yellow iPhone when I know that's not my favorite color at all.
So, for example, a black MacBook, you know, it wasn't that long ago that virtually every piece of tech was black.
What's old is new again, though. Here we are in 2023, where we're using flip phones for smartphones and black laptops are back.
So what do you think? Do you think that they won anybody over with this latest presentation?
I think people were very eager to see the M3 lineup for the chips. And I think that was something that people were, you know, not surprised to see that they announced. And people were waiting for an iMac upgrade because that was a kind of a bit of a jump from the M1 chip to the M3 chip. I think the most exciting thing from a consumer standpoint is that the iMac has the same starting price, which is always great to hear from an Apple product. And then with the MacBook Pros, you actually have the option to get kind of a lower starting price of $1,600 if you just get the standard M3 as opposed to the M3 Pro or M3 Max. So I think the prices are really the thing that I was like, okay, this is good. This is, you know, we don't have to pay more money because the prices for everything are going up. So that was really what stood out to me.
We're talking with Abrar-Al Heeti from CNET about the most recent Apple presentation that they rolled out some iMacs and they rolled out some MacBooks and they talked about chips. And one of the things they did mention in the show, a 30-minute presentation, was that, hey, the whole thing was shot on an iPhone. Okay.
That was actually really cool.
It was really cool. But, you know, I think for me, and I know a lot of other people, it's more impressive when they see that ad that runs on TV every 10 minutes about the Olivia Rodrigo video was shot on an iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is cool when you they tie in the pop culture references, but also like shooting a music video on an iPhone is very impressive. Absolutely. That really demonstrates the camera advancements more than anything, I think.
And it works both ways too. I mean, I don't really listen too much to the radio stations that play that kind of stuff, but now that I've heard the song like 1,000 times, I'm kind of into it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's working. They know they got good money for their marketing campaigns for sure.
Now, this is a pretty interesting story that you sent me. So, you know, in social media, ads are terrible. We hate them. But now in Europe, Facebook and Instagram users can opt out of ads, but for a fee. So you know that's coming here.
Exactly. That's what I'm expecting, just because I think that's something that it reminds me of here in the US. Because at first I was like, that's a very interesting concept to pay to not get ads. But then I thought about YouTube Premium, and I subscribe to YouTube Premium and I pay to not get ads. And it's really great. And I think there is a tendency for things to roll out in the EU and then make their way over to the US. And I think this is one of those things because it's rolling out in the EU so that people, you know, there's a lot of laws there about not using personal information for personalized ads. And that's something a lot of people are pushing back on. But I think if this is a source of revenue for Meta to, you know, people would be willing to pay to not see ads on Facebook and Instagram, surely they will roll that out here at some point.
Now, Coop, you do this, right? You pay for YouTube Premium, and you don't have to see the ads.
Yeah, I've had that for years and years and years. YouTube Music comes along with it now, so I get both of those kind of rolled into one. And unfortunately, back when we first started talking about YouTube products, there was prices were grandfathered in, so I had a really low price for their suite of premium services for a long time. That's not the case anymore. I pay the same as anybody else. But for my job, I have to have YouTube without commercials, because I don't know how many times I need to find something in 2 seconds,
right,
and bring it up and play it. And if I didn't have the premium account, then half the time I get a commercial first. So yeah, I haven't seen an ad on YouTube in a decade.
Well, see, you may not be the person to ask this, so I'll ask Abrar this. Is it my imagination, or are there more ads on YouTube now than there used to be?
You know, you actually can't ask me that question, because I too subscribe to YouTube Premium, and every time I'm with somebody who pulls up a YouTube video, I'm like, oh, ads! Like, I forgot that was a thing. I'm so spoiled, but I pay for it. I mean, it takes a toll on my bank account, but it definitely makes the experience much more enjoyable.
I thought this was interesting too, about the idea in Europe that you can opt out of ads for a price, and the platform prices are a little bit different. For example, when you sit when you watch stuff on the web, to get the ad free, it's the equivalent of $10.60. Mm-hmm. But if it's on iOS or Android, it's almost $14.
That reminds me of Twitter Blue, whatever iteration. You know, it's gone through so many transformations at this point. But I remember Elon had rolled out something along those lines, where for web you would pay a certain price, and then for mobile you pay another, kind of as a way to like take a dig at Apple and the App Store. But it is fascinating that there are separate pricing tiers here, depending on if you're using, mobile or web. And then if you use both, then you'll have to pay for both, but it'll be slightly discounted. They're definitely going to get a lot of money out of this, I think.
You know what? You sent me a lot of really good stories. I wish we had more time to talk about all this stuff, but I did want to ask you about this. So Google reportedly pays $18 billion a year to be Apple's default search engine. Mm-hmm. I did not know anything about this.
I actually didn't until this story came out. We're getting a lot of these nuggets because of this US versus Google trial. And basically, the reason they do this is to make sure that they are the default search engine on Safari. And then that can prevent Apple from developing their own search engine that would compete with Google. And then it also prevents Google from, if Apple did ever launch their own search engine, then Google could promote, Chrome on Gmail or Maps or YouTube, because Google just owns so many things and they have so much reach that Apple, it's probably, at this point, smarter for them to just kind of sit back, let Google dominate the search engine industry for now, at least, and just kind of keep this peace treaty essentially going between the two companies.
Yeah, it's just when I saw this headline, I thought, am I reading this wrong? Because I thought it would be Apple paying Google $18 billion a year to be the default search engine.
Yeah, I also was very surprised by this. I was surprised by kind of the dynamics there, and the fact that Google was willing to pay so much money, and that they even had an agreement of this nature, because I never, I guess, thought of how closely the companies kind of came to this mutual agreement of who should stay in what lane.
All right, finally, this week, I guess later this week, we're going to get this new Beatles song Now and Then. Coop and I were talking about this on the air a little bit yesterday and last week too. I really don't want this to be too much AI. I want the real deal. What do you think's going to happen?
I agree. I'm very hesitant, eager, anxious, all those things to see what it sounds like. I hope that the AI is used simply as a tool to make things sound better, as opposed to overly produced. Essentially what they used it for was to separate John Lennon's vocals from the background sounds in his apartment and any other instruments. But I too hope that it sounds, we're going to have to compare it to kind of the original stuff that was not used with AI, and see if it sounds weird and spacey, or if it actually sounds good.
And we're supposed to get like a mini doc from Peter Jackson also along with this thing that's got some never seen before footage. But don't they always say that about every Beatles thing?
Exactly. Well, and the thing is, they keep calling this the final Beatles song, but I'm like, I feel like in 5 years, they're going to find something else. They're going to be like, all right, with AI, we've created another Beatles song. So we're going to keep getting Beatles content, to the end of time, I think.
I think you're probably right about that. Abrar, thanks for coming on. Lots of good stuff today. Lots of stuff going on in tech. We'll talk to you next Wednesday around the same time. Have a good week.
Perfect. Thank you for having me.
This is Hotline Weekend. Welcome to Hotline Weekend, your ultimate weekend getaway for nonstop excitement and entertainment.
Hey, let's get into Mountain Stage and what's going on with that.
Gosh, where should I start, Dave? I'm working on things far out. Like next October, we're working on some road shows. Working on some shows in April. We're going to go back to Athens, Ohio. But like on the forefront of my mind is we're working out the details for our show on November 18th with the West Virginia Symphony. And like we're used to dealing with a lot of people when it comes to Mountain Stage, but doing this with the Symphony is unlike any other Mountain Stage that we've done in the past. And I think it's cool, even during our 40th season, that we're doing a collaboration and for broadcast that's never been done before in the 30-year history or 40-year history of Mountain Stage. And it's also the 50th year of the West Virginia Symphony. So that's
nice.
A cool synergy. Yeah, absolutely. And so we're a part of the Pop Series, which is presented by ZMM over with the West Virginia Symphony. And Judy Collins is our main guest. She's going to do 2 sets in both out, 1 set in each hour. And then we also have Gabriel Kahane, who's a young modern composer who is like a contemporary almost of Maurice Cohn, who's the new music director and conductor at the Symphony. So a lot of great things happening. There's a lot of excitement. But man, the Symphony, they plan things out, and it's like every step is like a little bit of choreography, and it's just been overwhelming me with details lately, because we have to know when the maestro walks out and when the concert master starts the tuning note and all these things that like have to happen, you know, and we've got to fit all that into the Mountain Stage format and fit more Mountain Stage format into the Symphony format. So it's going to be unlike anything we've done before.
Have you ever had Judy Collins on the show before?
We looked at her song list today, man, and she's been on the show. This will be her 7th time over the years. Yeah. And she's wonderful to work with. She's a folk music icon. And we actually were looking to see what songs she'd done in the past. And Jeff was looking through the database, and she's done so much Bob Dylan on the show, which is really interesting. But you also mentioned the Beatles, and there was a time she came on and did all Beatles songs.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about it today. We could do a really nice record of Judy Collins' performances, I think, you know, as long as the audio and stuff, and she would like the performances. That would be a neat project to pursue.
Man, she was such a hot artist at the time in the 60s.
For sure.
We've got some music. This is Hey, There's No Way to Say Goodbye from Judy Collins.
Yeah, a Leonard Cohen song, by the way, which I absolutely love.
She's also done a bunch of those on the show.
I loved you in the morning, our kisses deep and warm, your hair upon the pillow like a sleepy golden storm. Many loved before us, I know that we are not new. In city and in forest, they smile like me and you. Now it's come to distances, and both of us must try. Your eyes are soft with sorrow. Hey, that's no way to say goodbye.
Cohen's lyrics, man, are just meant for her voice.
I wander in my time. Walk me to the corner, our steps will always rhyme. You know my love goes with you.
This is going to be beautiful with the Symphony.
With me, it's just the way it changes, like the shoreline and the sea. Let's not talk of love or change or things we can't untie. Your eyes are soft with sorrow.
Our Judy Collins will be on Mountain Stage. And, you know, let's get into Nellie McKay.
Okay, yeah. We've talked a lot about the Symphony Show. That's November 18th at the Clay Center. It's going to be a really cool collaboration. But I thought we'd go ahead and start talking about our 40th anniversary shows. We have 2 of them on December 3rd and on December 10th, and you're going to be hearing a lot about those. And we brought some Nellie McKay, who's going to be a part of the show. She's been on the show several times. One of our most beloved artists. She does something different every time she's on Mountain Stage. And she's been on so often that she's really come to know some of our band members. And of course, Michael Lipton, who's in the Mountain Stage band, is a member of the Carpenter Ants, a popular band here, and they travel all over the country and the world, playing R&B and soul music. Well, Nellie McKay got with the Carpenter Ants to do an album, and it's called Hey Guys, Watch This, because I think she must have named it that because she is always defying expectations. No matter what she does, every album is a little bit different. And this one is neat because it features our friends, the Carpenter Ants. And this is the new video that I hope you'll tweet out, Dave. But it's a beautiful and sweet song called The Drinking Song.
All right, let's have it.
There goes
goes my heart. There goes my wrecking ball. Here lies a part I never knew. I say a prayer I've asked 1,000 times why you're up there when I'm with you. And I just wanna drink and drink and drink and drink and drink. I just wanna let the spirits help me close my eyes. I'm just gonna drink and never think, just keep on drinking till I die. For my baby's gone to angels in the sky.
I will tweet this out. That's really nice.
It's a beautiful video, and that's Michael Lipton's all over. That's his guitar playing right there. You know, it's just a beautiful part of that song.
I just saw Michael last Saturday at Jaeger. He was picking up John Ellison.
Nice.
You know, who was in town for
Those
a fundraiser.
are the kind of interactions you'll have at the airport. I was up there a couple weekends ago, and I saw Jason Williams, man. White Chocolate was walking around the airport.
He's coming back. He's coming back. All right, Coop, we've been talking about this. Let's play a little bit of the Beatles' new quote-unquote new song, Now and Then, that was released today, where they isolated the John Lennon lyrics from some of his solo work back in the 70s, and this is what they came up with.
I know it's true. It's all because of you. And if I make it through, it's all because of you. And now and then, if we must start again, well, we will know for sure that I will love you. Now and then, I miss you. Oh, now and then, I want you to be there for me.
All right, Coop, what do you think?
Couple things. My initial disappointment when I was listening to this and before this came out, before the remastered version here came out, was the time signature. So many of back to Free as a Bird, Real Love, and this song, all very slow. And the Beatles had some slow songs, you know, I Mean Mine and Something and Girl and so, but they're not really known for slow songs in my opinion. So the time signature at first kind of threw me off. That being said, one major, and I'm not a musical genius, but one thing that I noticed the difference of right away, the older songs that he came out with, Free as a Bird and Real Love, I believe Jeff Lynne produced those. And frankly, especially Free as a Bird sounded like a Wilbury song. To me, it always has, especially with the changing up of the lyrics where each person had a lyric. And so it sounded like a Wilbury song. This, I never really liked it. Giles Martin did this, and you can tell the difference. To me, it sounds a little bit more like the Beatles. This is never something they would have came up with together. There's zero chance. But as far as it being a well done for what it is, I think it's pretty decent.
I think the thing that struck me when I first heard it was I wasn't expecting that signature Ringo sound.
Oh, you can hear you can hear Ringo right away. A little later on, they have some nice George parts in there that I don't know where they listened.
So are these demos? Was it put together? I don't know enough about it. I have not done my research.
This is, I guess, Yoko had the tapes, right? And this is from the stuff that he had done. It sounds a lot like his last couple of solo albums.
It definitely sounds more like that than a Beatles song.
Yeah. Like John would have never, if John did something this slow with the Beatles, it would have had an attitude. It wouldn't have been like sort of this sentimentality. Not that I necessarily mind that. It just doesn't have the Beatles kind of swagger to it, I guess.
But it is something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and
it's
something.
And
it's got us
honestly,
talking about the Beatles.
and
again.
it's honestly, it's better than Free as a Bird and Real Love.
I was going to ask you, Coop, if that's what if that was your stance. I heard you talking about Free as a Bird a couple weeks ago or last week sometime, and
yeah, I just thought it was very underwhelming, and I really did like it really at the time sounded like a Wilbury song to me. It just always did. It was very bass heavy, and the way that they produced the vocals and
That's
stuff.
a great
It sounded
point.
like a Wilbury song.
That's a
And
great
Jeff
point.
Lynne, I think, had a lot to do with that. He's a great producer.
For sure.
It just had his sound to it.
For sure.
This has more of the Martin family sound to it, and I think that makes all the difference.
I'm
makes a difference.
I'm glad I heard it rather than not.
details matter.
Yeah.
No, I would
know?
not have liked for this to live on a shelf somewhere. That's
Hey,
great.
before we run out of time, what's going on with you, pro wrestling in Madison?
Oh,
What's
my
happening?
goodness. Yeah, Saturday night, ASW presents the Nathan Rumble, which we named in favor of our friend Nathan, who passed away too young a couple years ago. And Nathan loved a good battle royal. And so we're going to do this Royal Rumble style where people will enter every couple minutes into the Nathan Rumble. But then we've also got stars of the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. Also, independent wrestling stars Matt Cardona and Brian Myers are going to be in the house. And earlier that day, our Regatta Pro Wrestling team are participating in the Mac and Cheese Cook-Off.
Nice.
And we are officially entering our People's Elbow Macaroni and Cheese to the contest,
Nice.
along with our Nacho Man seasoning on the top.
The Nacho Man.
Yeah, my buddy Matt Sutton has perfected the recipe. So you got to come out for that. It's for a good cause for the Childhood Language
Both
Center.
of those names, by the way, are inspired. Those are very good.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'll take minor credit for that. But as soon as I knew we were doing macaroni, it's like, well, it's got to be the People's Elbow Macaroni.
Look at this. I mean, this segment had Judy Collins. It had the Beatles. It had pro wrestling.
Always good. Always a diversity here.
Adam, good to see you.
Always nice to be with you, Dave.
Metro News Hotline, weekdays from 3 until 6. Syndicated over the air and online at WVMetronews.com.